Hello everybody, and welcome to my first review of a ship that I do with a voiceover. What we're reviewing today is our beautiful North Carolina. North Carolina for this time around is in WoW's Legends, but she's also in Azure Lane, as you see right there. Now then, let's move on. Now then, first order of business is our commander, William Sims, who has built to last, and we choose no fly zone instead of the other two, with crisscross being the second skill, marksman being the third, and reaching out XXL being the fourth, with will to rebuild being the legendary. We use Megatron and Andrew Cunningham. But you can swap out Megatron for A.L. Scharnhorst or maybe one of the CV commanders if you really so want to recreate historical or AL North Carolina. Now then, moving on to our loadout, we have high explosive shells, as you can see right here, and then armor piercing shells like the one you see right there. Then damage con, repair party with 3 consumables for that, and then we have catapult fight. We have the choice of catapult fighter, spotter, or enhanced secondary targeting. All 3 of these have 3 consumables to their name, with boosters that you can pick. I use type 3 for this ship, but you can use whatever other camo you want to. Then our flags, I'm using Wargaming Birthday 2021. Then survivability is 59,000 HP, but with hull A it is only 49,000. Then our artillery is our 406 millimeters. Then AA defense is 100 due to the skills I have chosen. And it is all there. Our maneuverability is only 27.8 knots with a rudder shift time of 18.2 seconds and a turning circle of 760 meters. Then our concealment is 14 kilometers with detectability after firing main gun being 16.8 and detectability while the ship is on fire being 16 kilometers. Detectability by air changes and it is now 11.5 kilometers by air. Detectability by air after firing main gun is 19.6 kilometers. Then detectability when the ship is on fire, it is only 14.5. Then the guaranteed detectability range is like every other ship, with it being 2 kilometers when in smoke. And then the detectability when firing in the smoke is 13.9 kilometers. Now then, the front section of the North Carolina has a pretty weak bow, but is actually sort of tanky in a way as well, which is quite surprising. Even with the 25 millimeters, then the torpedo reduction really isn't that much. Our superstructure is pretty weak, with the case maggot armor being quite alright. Then our main battery being the rear plate, and then our bed armor is pretty strong. And then of course, like everything else, the front plate is strong as well, with our citadel actually being sort of flat against the waterline, but it has what it looks to be like a small amount of curve over it. But if you are getting plunged fired by AP shells, and big ones at that, they're gonna probably kill you pretty good. And then it's pretty agile, with a sticky shot and sluggish shot. And then North Carolina herself, a little bio of it. But there's 2 ships in the series, being North Carolina and Washington. They're both also in AL as well. And then this thing really wasn't that useful in war, mostly used for island shooting and for its AA role, which most people remember it by, which is actually quite nice. Now then, switching gears over to a different thing. Now then, something else that we should be looking at are its upgrades, which, for the first one, I use AA Guns Mod 2, but you can also substitute it for Secondary Battery Mod 2 or Main Battery Mod 2. Then, what we use for the second one is Damage Con System Mod 2, but you can also use Steering Gears and Propulsion Mod 2, but I don't really use any of those two because they're more reserved for memes. That's about it for that one. Now then, for the third slot, it is Target Acquisition, which is sadly the only option, which gives us spotting range, torpedo detectability range, and RGA of ships. I really don't see a use for this much, so I don't use it. But then we have North Carolina Hull B, which gives us those health points in rotor shift time. Then the Targeting System Mod 6, or Mod 2 at Mark 6, and then the 100,000 horsepowered engine. Now then, let's take this out for a spin, shall we? Now then, let us begin. We first have our target right here. We see that we are the top tier ship, with being tier 6, and then the enemies being tier 5. We have a few more things down there as well. And in this one I am accompanied by my good friend Trooper 227, or 277, I can't even remember it. But he's running another North Carolina, but he is also running one that doesn't have the upgraded hull as the one I'm running. Then we start sailing towards A, and we have our guns pointed to the left and sailing to the right, just to see and hope that we don't get hit hard. This for the first minute or two, it's quite peaceful until we spot our Allied DD spots an enemy ship, and then the planes fly close by to us enough that they spot us. By this point in time, I already have an AA build done for my North Carolina, so the planes really aren't a bother to me. Then our first enemy right over here is the Colorado, which we will be taking a good portion of its health right off the bat. That's always beautiful to see. Our friend fires, and sadly nothing. I'm mainly more preoccupied by the planes flying overhead. Even with an AA build, it really isn't that great. And so I'm just making sure that he isn't targeting us, and that our AA is targeting him. Now then. This Colorado is still pretty high up still. But the sad part is our ally, my friend in the North Carolina, is not so fortunate, because he has been getting berated by the entire enemy team, enough that he is quite low in health. Luckily for me, the DD does smoke us up, but my friend is too far in front for the smoke to be effective for him. Now then, we rush over here and fire at the Colorado in hopes that we get good numbers on the board, but merely 6,000 damage. Still okay. We were set on fire by the enemy Dallas, but fortunately the smoke covers us enough that it really isn't much of a bother. And then a quite unfortunate thing happens. Trooper is sunk. Hit by a torpedo. His crew bails out and tries to survive. At this point, I'm still spotted by the aircraft, because at this point they have other aircraft around flying and stuff. Then the Colorado is right over here. The DD does tell me to stop and reverse so that I don't get hit by anything coming through there, and it does prove useful. It does prove useful in a few seconds. Once that thing's out of the way, it does prove useful, as enemy torpedoes were coming straight for that corner right there, and our DD takes out the Colorado. Always great. Now then, that enemy torpedo bomber is gonna try to torp us, but we shoot down one of his planes, and then we shoot down the second one before the torpedoes are released. That's always great. Now then, we're just reversing to get away from that corner, and eventually this Queen Elizabeth will overextend to meet our 16-inch guns and the King George V's 14 inchers, and if I believe so, I believe that the Gneisenau are now somewhere close by. It may not be. But we fire, and that right there gives us 38,000 damage. Then the enemy Fubuki comes through here, and say no to our Gneisenau, and to tell them to prioritize on the Fubuki. The Fubuki, he should have maybe torped me or something. Nope, he is torping me. And then he has a rather unfortunate hit right there, which hurts for him. That gives us now 40,666 damage on the board, and then this Queen Elizabeth demise will come in a second. The rear turret fires, then turret number 1 fires, and that knocks him out of the board in a quick succession. Then this enemy Dallas comes in here. Turret number 2 fires, and then I wait for a reload for the rear turret, and then the first turret.
The ship is on fire.
Secondaries keep firing, and then in a few moments that Dallas is kill number 2 for us.
Enemy cruiser destroyed.
Might be kill number 3, I can't really see.
Torpedoes, dead ahead.
Now then, the Fubuki keeps trying to torp us, but fails. Then we're gonna turn around and head to B to assist our destroyer. And it is the enemy Florida that is at B versus our guide. Quite unfortunate. There really isn't much to say right now in this section, because we're merely just sailing onwards and onwards to hopefully get to our Florida, or to the Florida, I mean, the enemy Florida. But guide loses him for a split second in the spot, then Florida comes back around. Our KGV starts firing at him, and the Florida takes out our guide. They only have a few more enemy ships, and with this right here, we aim and fire all 3 guns to him, and our allied KGV does the same.
Torpedoes, astern.
When will this Wesser stop trying to get close to us 2 battleships? He's really going for the damage, I guess. But Florida is retreating and trying to get away from Mr. Firestarter, KGV, and me that's using AP shells. I do get a good amount of damage taken off of him, but he's still kicking and still surviving. Now then, KGV starts a fire once again, and then the Florida takes it out. Then I fire, and I do not believe I get a hit, but I may be wrong. I do get a hit, and he has barely a sliver of health, maybe a couple thousand. And then he retreats behind the island where we cannot fire at him. But he makes a grave mistake in pushing back a bit further. The enemy Wesser keeps targeting the KGV, and we fire at the enemy KGV. And the Florida right there, and unfortunately the KGV takes it. Ah, such a sad moment. And then the Wesser's plane is once again shot down, like if it was 1943. We aim and fire at the King George V, while the Fubuki's torps still try to get a hit on us, and we destroy the King George V. The enemy CV is by that corner around B by the looks of it, and taking a guess, I put that sector alert right there, and the enemy Fubuki takes out our KGV with a few shots. The enemy York is all the way back over there, and the enemy Wesser has been spotted for the first time, and A is now getting captured by the Fubuki. I fire at the Wesser, and I get a Confederate from it. Beautiful. If I believe so, this is only my 3rd Confederate I've ever had. Or it might be the 4th. Anyways, that York is getting closer and closer, and is closing the gap, and he gives me a perfect time to hit him with everything. And unfortunately I missed most of my shots except for one shot that does pen, and I get a clear sky medal for destroying the Wesser's planes.
The ship is on fire.
Then the York keeps trying to get close, and by now he has released his torps, I'm pretty sure. The Fubuki's torps still trying, and then there's one of the York's torps. Taking out the York, another set of York's torps come through, and I luckily escape unharmed. Except for, I believe, one or no, nothing. By this point in time, we only have a mere seconds on the board as I try to find the Wesser. And I tried to request help from the enemy, from the allied CV that is in the corner of the map. Unfortunately, we can't find them, but I'm pretty sure the Fubuki starts to fire about this point. The Wesser tries to bomb me, does bomb me, and completely fails at penning me in a major way. And then the battle ends with us getting a nice victory. Beautiful. And our rewards are beautiful. Now then, thank you for watching, everybody. Have a peaceful day.